Hi everyone, and welcome to Noodle Toots. My name is Toby, and today we're working on a very special project. For those of you who don't know, I've been no-lifing critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV for over 4 years now.
And did you know that the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV has a free trial and includes the entirety of A Realm Reborn, the award-winning Heavensward expansion, and also the award-winning Stormblood expansion up to level 70 for free with no restrictions on playtime?
It's good and I love it. Link in description if anyone wants to give the free trial a try. Moving on! This was originally intended to be my Christmas episode, but as you can see, I opted to post something different in December to give myself more time to work on this project. So I guess this is my Valentine's Day video. Either way, I'm recreating a very special Warrior of Light in doll form.
Like Fran from Final Fantasy XII, this character is a Viera, essentially a bunny person. Viera women are tall and statuesque, while their men are generally more demure and androgynous. It's a lore thing. Either way, they're all very, very pretty and look good in anything, including maid costumes, and that's what our Bunnyman will be wearing. I'm using V from the BTS doll line as my base. This intro is long enough already, so let's get cracking. Instead of replicating the in-game maid costume, I'm making a custom outfit for this project, drawing a lot of inspiration from magical girl costumes to create a pink and fluffy abomination of a maid costume. This outfit is going to consist of a dress with a faux blouse front, puffy sleeves, bloomers, stockings, an apron, a petticoat for extra poofiness, frilly cuffs, a pair of cute Mary Jane shoes, and of course, lots and lots of lace. I made all my pattern pieces, cut them out, and fray checked them off camera. I adapted the dress, stockings, and bloomer patterns from Moonlight Jewel's Monster High clothing patterns. That was a fun challenge. The dress bodice was a little tricky, since I kinda made it up as I went. That, and I had to update the pattern for a doll about double the width of the original garment. I really took my time with adapting this pattern to make sure it would fit the doll well. I think I ended up doing a pretty good job, all things considered. Good job, Toby. The seam allowances on these garments are pretty small, and between that and my bad vision, I didn't want to risk these getting eaten by my sewing machine. Instead, I hand sewed every single piece. Well, not every piece. I machine sewed the ruffle for the skirt. Either way, between adapting the patterns and hand sewing everything, this whole outfit took a not insignificant amount of time to complete. Probably why I put this video off until February. Anyway, catching the hand sewing on camera was absurdly difficult, so I don't have a ton of footage of me making everything. Sorry about that. Thankfully though, I had help. Kind of.
Hey man. Hey.
He does his best, just like me. After I made the dress, it was time to add the little details that would really make this dress go from meh to Mado, or magical girl. Little column A, little column B. I started with the apron. I used the same fabric as the faux blouse and the ruffled trim to make it. I added a little bow off cam and added some snaps as closure. That's because I wanted to add a comically large bow in the back, and I figured the best way to do that was to make it separate from the apron. I used the same cotton material as earlier, separated into segments. The main part of the bow, the dangly bits, and the part tied in the middle. The bow attaches to the back of the apron with a snap. Last but not least, we need a petticoat for volume. I started with a strip of elastic and lots of white tulle. I cut the tulle into short strips and just looped them over the elastic. I made a second layer for the petticoat, but it ended up being a little too much for my tastes. With one petticoat, the dress is still pretty mushroom-shaped, but I think that level of poof is vital for a cutesy maid/magical girl inspired dress. Off-cam, I also made the cactuar earring he typically wears. Now that we're done with the outfit, it's time for shoes. Cute shoes are vital for any magical maid outfit, but unfortunately those are in short supply with the BTS doll line. So I did what any reasonable doll artist would do at a time like this. Well, no, not that. At least not after the first few minutes. I ordered these shoes from Denver Doll Emporium and gave them a quick coat of paint so that they'd match the dress better. They're a little roomy on his feet, but they'll do. They're also giving big Kingdom Hearts energy, which I love. Now let's move on to processing and modifying the doll. This handsome Bunnyman has a lovely warm skin tone that's much darker than my base dolls, so I'll need to do some color matching. First though, I need to remove his factory paint and hair. Hair is easy enough. I cut V's hair off close to the scalp, and since I'm not rerooting the doll, I cut an incision into the back of the head to remove the stubble and glue. Onto the face. If you've never worked with a BTS doll before, removing their factory paint isn't like removing the paint from a Monster High doll. What's the word? Sucks? Let me explain. However the manufacturers printed the doll's face made it excruciatingly difficult to remove. To help make this a little easier, I let an acetone-soaked cotton pad rest on the factory paint for a few minutes. This helps reduce the amount of scrubbing, as well as profanity, that normally accompanies processing a BTS doll. It still took me around 10 minutes to remove that factory paint though. Now that the head is clean, I need to remove his human ears. He's not going to need them, since he's going to be getting some nice bunny ears. Before I started sculpting the ears, I glued some magnets onto his head so I can attach and detach them as needed. This will not only make gluing his hair infinitely easier later, but it'll help him potentially wear hats or other headwear in the future. Unlike Viera in-game. Anyway, I made the base of the ears with model magic to keep things light. I'll add the ear fluff when I add the hair. Now I can start color matching. And I totally didn't procrastinate on this part for a substantial amount of time because I was afraid of my airbrush. Nope. Nor did I have to start over a few times because the colors either weren't right or the airbrushing just wasn't working. Absolutely not. But after several layers applied with a brush, the color matching was done. I blushed and added shimmers to the entire doll to make his skin feel warmer and more vibrant. I also gave him a manicure off-cam. Now with reference handy, I can start the face. This bun boy doesn't have any tattoos or a lot of makeup, so this face-up will be pretty simple. In theory, BTS dolls have really small eye molds, especially compared to Monster High dolls, so that was a bit of a challenge for me. I thought I would have to stick mainly to paint for this face-up to avoid ruining the painted head, but thankfully that wasn't the case. That said though, this face-up was a major trust the process moment. I didn't really like it up until the end, and it took a lot of self-control not to rage quit and start over. I'm glad I didn't though. Now we can move on to the hair. I'm using acrylic yarn to give our Warrior of Light his coiffure and fuzzy ears. I prepared the wefts by unraveling the yarn, brushing it out, and straightening it with my flat iron. I halved most of these wefts since they were way too long for what I needed, and a little goes a long way with short hairstyles. The hairstyle I'm recreating is short and much more tame than my usual assortment of yarn hairstyles, which means I need to be extra careful with how I glue the wefts onto his head. I created the hairstyle with water, a toothbrush, and an eyebrow razor. I used thread to tie off a small portion of hair by his left ear. As a finishing touch, I used soft pastel to add black to the ends of his hair and sealed the pastel and the style with some hairspray. Last but not least, it's time to make his weapon. Every Warrior of Light needs their weapon of choice, and this handsome Mado is no exception. He's a gunbreaker a la Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, so he's getting a gunblade of his own. This time, I am replicating a weapon available in-game. He'll be getting the King's Mana Trigger, a cute butterfly-themed gunblade. To get the size right, I used my iPad as a light box so I could trace an outline of the weapon to use as a blueprint. I'm using my trusty Milliput to make the weapon itself. For the translucent details, I'm using doll packaging and UV resin. And here's the finished gunblade. Making this was tricky, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out. And with that complete, this magical Mado bun is finished. Here is our finished Warrior of Light, ready to kick Asians, take names, and look adorable while doing it. I greatly underestimated how long this project was going to take, and I ended up finishing this project late. Good job, Toby. But in the end, I'm really glad I took my time to get things exactly as I wanted. He's probably my most intricate project to date, which was also a great learning experience for future projects.
Do you play Final Fantasy XIV? Are you a tank, a healer, a DPS, or maybe more of an all-rounder? I consider myself an all-rounder, but generally I like to think of myself as Heidelin's okayest DPS. Most of the time. I have more Final Fantasy related projects in mind for the future, so let me know if you want to see any of those. You can keep an eye on my future projects and my works in progress over on my Instagram. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you can see my future uploads. Even if you don't like Final Fantasy, I've got a lot of projects that I'm really excited to share with y'all that I hope you'll like too. Thanks again for watching, my dudes, and I'll catch you in the next video.